Last time on All Night. I want to marry the badger! Why is this still $300? I haven't even said anything! No solicitors! All Night residents, All Night speaking. Yeah? Yeah? Okay, look, Leonardo, I'm happy you made it into Gigabash and all, but I am a married man, so take my number off your list and take your perverted shell to some other Tokutuber's doorstep. Wait, Gamera's in fucking Gigabash! Giga, and I cannot stress this enough, Bash. Through what I can only describe as a mix of divine intervention with a little help from yours truly. Check the link in the description on how I used dead memes to manifest our boy into Gigabash. You're welcome! It truly feels like ages since we last talked about this game. Once upon a time, I lauded myself as the #1 Gigabash content creator, and yes, I still am. And truly, so much has changed since I last did a true deep dive into the Gigaverse. So, with tokusatsu history being made right before our eyes with none other than Gamera making his way into a fighting game in the year of our Lord 2025. That still just sounds weird saying it out loud. I felt it only right to do a bona fide sequel to my very first Gigabash video, where I revisit this game, its mechanics, and take a second look at how it holds up today after so many characters and so many DLCs have been added. And of course, talk about the boy and what he means for the future of this game. Because if you think Gamera is where we stop from here, you could not be more wrong. This game runs on pure copium, baby! My name is All Night, and this is the story of Gigabash and the undisputed power of indie games. Gigabash is a modern-day arena fighter starring a huge roster of giant monsters, mechs, and more. The game starts with a roster of 10 original characters, and with the DLC, we have now upped that number to a whopping 26. Jesus, more than double already? Now, I could sit here and retread old ground, but nah, son, I've got more style than that. Think of this as the king of the monsters to my last video's Godzilla 2014. We're gonna give you all of what made the first one good, but just more. Heaven help us if we get to the Godzilla vs. Kong segment. Who the fuck am I supposed to fight? I am canonically the weakest Tokutuber in this whole community. Power scaling's a bitch, rip my life for real. Gigabash sets itself apart from other giant monster fighting games because there are no giant monster fighting games anymore, and just like that, the big sad is back. I will do my damnedest not to constantly call back to the Pipeworks Godzilla trilogy in this video here, but it's honestly just sad at this point that Toho has what is potentially a pipe bomb of a fighting game potential underneath their list of IPs, and they just sit on it with their big, fat lizard thigh. In all seriousness, though, Gigabash is a hell of a fun time for gamers of all backgrounds. It's an arena fighter, but not like Sparking Zero or Ultimate Ninja Storm. Think more so Power Stone, or maybe War of the Monsters. Jesus Christ, I really am that old. You and up to 3 other monsters load up onto a variety of stages and beat the living snot out of each other using your own unique attacks, the environment, and a whole host of other powers and gimmicks until only one monster is left standing. A destroy all monsters melee, if you will. Okay, I'm sorry. Check my first video for an actual deeper dive onto the mechanics of this game, but all of the staples of any arena fighter are here. Light attacks, special attacks, projectiles galore. Obviously, with this being a giant monster fighting game, there's a decent reliance on the environment, destructibility, and the ability to yeet your average office building at your opponent. Now, for this next bit, I do have to make a comparison to the Pipeworks trilogy, so bear with me. For boomers such as myself that grew up on these 3 games in particular, you may recall that those games had a lot of weight and slowness to them, specifically in their character movements. Almost in a same sense that kaiju movies would film at a higher frame rate only to slow it down to sell the movement of people in rubber suits as being giant. The Pipeworks games did this fairly well at selling the weight and making all the monsters feel as grounded as possible, despite there also being a fair share of aerial combos to be had in those games. Gigabash, on the flip side, is far less floaty and far faster. Super Smash Bros. Melee to Pipeworks Sprawl, if that makes any sense. In my unhealthy amount of playtime across both PlayStation and PC, I can adequately say that the game is as deep as you let it be when it comes to its fighting mechanics. Even like competitive fighting games like Street Fighter, this game has the tried and true rock, paper, scissors mechanic between attacks, grabs, and blocking. And as you fight stronger and stronger opponents, or in my case, stronger AI because I have no friends, you'll become very familiar with this concept and will continually abuse and use the triangle to circumvent obsessive blocking, or to intercept grab-happy plant monsters. I said I'm a married man! Fuck off! All in all, while I do miss the Pipeworks trilogy's style of weighty and meaty hits to sell the size of the monsters, Gigabash's gameplay is still a real good time, and damn near addicting. Definitely a more immediately satisfying fighting system that's easier to grasp at the outset than what Big G had rolling back in the day. Would I love to see a return to Pipeworks' style? Absolutely. But Gigabash has filled that void in so many ways that I can't even get to it all in just one video. That's why you'll want to check out that first video for a breakdown of some of the additional game modes in this game, such as its single-player and multiplayer offerings. If there's one thing I can say on the game as a whole though, it's that from what I can tell as of writing this video, is that the online community just really isn't there at the moment. Which sucks, since I know a lot of you are thirsty for good Toku games. Just take my last video as any indication. Haha, see what I did there? That's called pleasing the algorithm, if you know what I'm saying! Now enough is enough. I know what you're here for, and that's the DLC. Gigabash is a very unique animal amongst all indie games, in that not only does it offer its own unique monsters designed just for the game that fit the archetypes of a lot of different kaiju and mecha throughout cinema history, but starting with the love of my life, Big G, Gigabash had the privilege of inviting other licensed giant monsters and Toku heroes to join in on the carnage. So instead of re-reviewing the game for the entire video, today's focus will be on the DLC, talking about each pack individually in release order before we finally wrap it up. Hold on to your butts, cause we're in it for the long haul.
What did you see, old man?
Godzilla. Godzilla. Godzilla.
What started it all feels like years ago, cause it actually was years ago. Jesus Christ, time is an illusion and I'm old as shit. The Godzilla DLC Wave number 1 is what I feel to be the DLC with the most bang for your buck, with the most meat on its bones. Spoiler alert, but the DLC with Godzilla in it might just be my favorite one, who could have imagined that? But for real though, this wave of characters offers not only 4 new characters, but the 4 new characters with the most variety out of all the DLC characters. I said this last time on Dragon Ball Z, but it must be emphasized again, how the uniqueness of this particular group of characters is that Passion Republic managed to not only add fan favorites from the Pipeworks trilogy, not only managed to rep Showa, Heisei, and Millennium, but also managed to allow for every single character to stand apart and introduce brand new mechanics that aren't by any means power creep or gimmicky. Okay, maybe Godzilla's anti-air might need to be looked at, but nonetheless. This pack offers 4 Godzilla monsters that fit the archetypes of most popular fighting game fight styles. Godzilla is, for lack of a better term, the Shoto of this pack. An all-arounder with strengths at medium to long range, and an anti-air move that was designed to be a biblically accurate representation of Godzilla's true power. Gigan is the rushdown character with multiple dashes, quick attacks, and teleportation moves. He also gets a Final Wars recolor, which I love and adore, because I will take every chance I can to obsess and talk about Final Wars. Did I mention Final Wars? Final Wars! Destroya is a heavyweight grappler that is probably the most heavy feeling of all of the monsters in this game. And trust me, around these parts, we like 'em heavy. That And I'm honestly so glad that we finally have a modern interpretation of Destroya's design, cause let's be real, the Pipeworks trilogy tried really hard to make what is already a very complex design not complex. And, yeah. Bleh, God, Destroya just looks so good in this game.
Well, my girl's in the next room. Sometimes I wish she was you. I guess we never really moved on.
Destroya was the first addition to my Hear Me Out cake. This is now all-night lore that you did not ask for, but now you have. You're welcome. Last but most certainly not least is the undisputed champion of Robo Dino designs, Kiryu. In another life, I maybe would have said that Kiryu's playstyle should have been a bit more melee-focused to mirror Godzilla. But honestly, making Kiryu a zoner is actually a galaxy-brained play in the long term. Because ever since the very first Pipeworks games, all Mecha Godzillas have struggled to stand apart from their corresponding Godzillas of their respective games. Not really as clones, but they all just kinda played like some Godzillas with maybe a couple of different types of projectiles, like missiles or lasers. But holistically, they would just play like all-arounders, just like all of the other Godzillas did back in the day. So to see Passion Republic stick to their literal guns and put Kiryu in his fully armored state, packing guns and guns and guns, this amounts to probably the most unique playstyle in the entire game, because his basic attack and special attacks aren't normal melee moves, but rather they are machine gun fire and missile fire. He does have a few melee moves, like his dash attack, which, oh, hey, I get that reference. But all in all, Kiryu started blasting, and my lord, he kept blasting. The Godzilla DLC Wave 1 was a good sign of things to come, such as Godzilla's not the only licensed giant bitch that got an invite to Gigabash. Ultraman, Ultraman Tiga, Alien Baltan, and Gamera all received an invite. Now, the Gigabash roster is filled to the brim with monsters and creatures galore, but the game also does have its fair share of hero-type characters such as Thundertross or the game's own Ultraman spin-off, Gigaman. So to have a DLC comprised of characters of very, very, very similar silhouettes was a pretty bold move. And while I am immensely thankful that we got an Ultraman DLC at all, this DLC is one that unfortunately left me wanting just a little more. Ultraman has a lot of grapple and wrestling moves, which thankfully helps to separate him from Gigaman in terms of being a giant hero. Ultraman Tiga has a gimmick where instead of having 4 taunts, 2 of his taunts are replaced with a form change gimmick, a red powerful form and a blue quick form. These forms alter some of his moves and also adjust his overall weight and speed. An interesting idea, and I think in practice it works alright. Gamera has a whip, and Gamera has bats. Yeah. Jeez, I can't even make a simp joke at this juncture. I already did that last time. Trust me, I will simp like the best of them, but even I know when a joke is dead. And Alien Baltan is thankfully the most unique of this roster of characters. He relies on this trickster mechanic where he creates clones of himself in some of his moves, and uses a mixture of laser blasts and teleportation with said clones to control the battlefield. Not a true zoner, but I know a Voldo when I see one. The Ultraman DLC was the last pack that allowed for 4 characters, cause from here on out, the dev team switched it up to 2 character packs instead of 4, so that they could release these packs much more often, and to help accommodate for development time and the time that they need to gather the rights of different characters. And speaking of rights,
Smoke weed every day.
I did make a video back in the day covering these too, link in the description, but I don't think I did them quite enough justice, so we'll be revisiting them today for sure. In hindsight, it's actually kind of crazy to me that King Ghidorah wasn't in the first wave of DLC. I think that was intentional though, as the Heisei version of Godzilla, while he's definitely scrapped with Ghidorah on many different occasions, Destroya has always been that big bad final boss of the Heisei era of Godzilla. So to match burning Godzilla up with his true nemesis, that was the perfect call. As if the first DLC didn't already feel like an impossibility, Wave 2 brings us not only King Ghidorah, cause of course, but also our first playable appearance of the smog monster, Ghidorah. Let's talk about Mr. Pooh before we get back to Ghidorah, because we've got more ground to cover with this guy. It's been quite a journey that our smoggy friend has been on, hasn't he? From just one appearance in Showa, to a cameo in Final Wars, all the way to a very, very, very brief appearance in the Pipeworks trilogy, Ghidorah isn't necessarily my favorite Godzilla villain by any stretch of the imagination, but I'd be lying if I said he wasn't iconic to the Big G's Rogues Gallery. So to see him finally get some love as an oddball pick, it brings a brown tear to my eye. Wait, should I get that checked out? Nevertheless, Ghidorah has a fairly standard moveset, all things considered. But his claim to fame is actually his smog mechanic. A set number of moves in his arsenal allow you to spread noxious pollution on the battlefield and also onto your opponents. Monsters hit by this stuff will suffer damage over time that can also stack. And that damage over time can give you nutty amounts of S-Class energy. That is so bonkers to me. I haven't really done an official tier list yet of this game. Comment down below and let me know if that's something you'd still be interested in. But Ghidorah feels very, very good because of just this mechanic alone. I see Passion Republic wanted to give Ghidorah some stopping power with his first ever appearance in a fighting game, so they definitely broke out the big guns for a big, lovable, dirty, goopy boy. Now on to the main event. King, and I cannot stress this enough, Ghidorah. I'll be honest, my opinion of the big King Ghidorah has changed quite a number of times over the years. Once upon a time, I thought of him to just be one big poser who has 3 heads, no bitches, and absolutely no movies that made me go, yeah, he did something. That's why I've been a Destroya stan for so much of my life. But then, I watched Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack, and yeah, I get it. Ghidorah is cool in all the stereotypical ways that a 3-headed golden dragon can be cool, and I love the big guy for it. Ghidorah in Gigabash is actually a great example of this game's ideology when it comes to character and moveset design. If there's something unique about a monster's design, Passion Republic will really lean into those specific unique characteristics and appearances, and will build movesets around those, even if they're not necessarily a reference. Or if they are a bona fide reference, like Ghidorah's wind blasts. Or obviously with 3 heads means that whenever he charges up his beams, he blasts in a wide area, cause more heads, more beam. His ultimate even takes advantage of that even further. And of course, Ghidorah ain't Ghidorah unless he's in the air, absolutely dominating. Dare I say, he is, in fact, the storm that is approaching. If you've played Ghidorah from the Pipeworks trilogy, you will feel right at home with how he plays here. And from here on out is where the DLC ventures will continue to get interesting, as what many thought would just be a flood of licensed characters in a bunch of different 2-packs, Passion Republic had different plans.
Run! It's
The Megazord.
It looks like
Megazord.
international copyright laws. It's not. Still, we should run like it is.
The Megazord.
Though it isn't.
You know what? Cheers. Cheers, PR. Because this DLC is probably my second favorite, for 2 reasons. And their names are Rojak and Balzar. Y'all know I'm the Toku guy. Y'all know I like me some Sentai / Power Rangers. So to say that I wanted the Dino Megazord and Dragon Zord in this game is a Kaiser Ghidorah-sized understatement. And I still want them in this game, but Lord have mercy, I'd be lying if I didn't say that these 2 are some of the best designs on the entire Gigabash roster. In a world of
Brand consume, brand crossover, brand Fortnite, brand IP, brand.
I'm immensely thankful that Gigabash gets to stretch its feathers a little bit and really show us what it can do with its own ideas. Let's start with the main man Rojak first. This is our Megazord parallel, the robot of justice against kaijus. He is the mecha of the Gigabash world's own Sentai team, the Mighty Warriors. Oddly enough, Rojak serves as this game's character with its own proper voice acting, as all 5 members of the squad will yap your ear off as you perform different attacks. Rojak takes the concept of 5 mecha combining to be one obnoxiously literally. Because Rojak's main gimmick is that all 5 mecha across the design have different attacks depending on what button combination you press. We've got a red beetle, a blue T-Rex, a black tank, a golden dragon, and a green durian? You mean those fuck-ass fruits from Sunshine that were a pain in the ass to get to the Yoshi egg? If you hit your opponent with at least one of the moves from the 5 different combiner mecha, Rojak will get a super buff that increases his speed and damage for a short period of time. And if you get Rojak's ultimate off, he takes a page from Mighty Morphin's book and takes on a tank form. And I'll be honest, he gets way more mileage off of this form than Mighty Morphin ever did. Oh, and did I also forget to mention that these bitches get their own theme song inspired by MMPR? Passion Republic, I think this means I owe you my firstborn at this point. Before I spend way too long gushing about this big, beautiful Robo Boy, PR, my guys, is there any way we can get an official toy of Rojak on store shelves? Name your price. I will pay it. I swear. Balzar wears his inspiration right on his sleeve. This boy is the Goldar to Rojak's Dino Megazord. I mean, come on. Just look at him. Balzar is an interstellar kaiju who amounts to a quadruped lion monster with 2 scorpion tails. And honestly, deadass, with my whole chest, Balzar might be S++ tier in this game, and is a beautiful expression of his silhouette informing his moveset yet again. The boy is a kitty cat with scorpion tails, so naturally he puts those tails to work across his entire moveset. It mostly revolves around different moves putting him into this pogo stick stance, where he can then input 2 different attacks that will either reposition him or attack his opponent again. And you can chain these moves in different ways to pogo stick multiple times and make your opponent feel like a tennis ball. It is quite a sight to see, I'm not gonna lie, man. I initially wrote Balzar off because I don't usually fuck with quadruped kaiju, I'm sorry, but Balzar made me a believer. What a good putty tat.
There are things you can't fight, acts of God. You see a hurricane coming, you have to get out of the way. But when you're in a Jaeger, suddenly you can fight the hurricane. You can win.
So, this was a surprise. There's both a lot to say and not a lot to say about Mecha Jurus here. This boy came out of nowhere as a surprise add-on DLC that was completely free, and we love that free shit around here. It's because this boy was already a character in the game for the longest time, and also one of the most potent stage hazards in this game. So what does Mecha Jurus bring to the table? Oddly enough, he's actually a pretty fun character despite being completely free. His 2 gimmicks are his 2 big-ass hands, a drill and a grabby claw. This makes him especially annoying because the claw serves as a long-range command grab. I said I'm a married man, MJ, fuck off! Ah, son of a bitch, I just realized. RJ78, a drill hand. Great, this was our one shot at Gundam or Gurren Lagann, and we got a robot that looks like Mogera 8 Abera. Jokes aside, I think it was real sweet of Passion Republic to get this big guy out the door as a surprise free character. Mecha Jurus fans, all 3 of you, I congratulate you on your resolve, your tenacity, and your PP. Jurus.
Ice Climbers!
In what was likely a sign that more Netflix kaiju were on the way, Ultraman also got a chance to double dip in terms of DLC, with the game's first 1-pack. That's technically a 2-pack? Ultraman and Emmy serve as this game's first duo character. I say duo character, but this doesn't really amount to much more beyond Emmy stepping in for Ken on a couple of his attacks. And this might be the first time where I need to be a little critical of this game for just a hot second. I see what they were trying to do with this Ultraman's moveset, but honestly, I don't really feel it as well as I did with the first wave of Ultramen and women. The greatest sin that the Ultraman DLC has committed here was just having 4 characters that didn't really feel all too different from one another. The subsequent packs with Godzilla and the Mighty DLC fixed this issue, so you'd think that a DLC with only one character would make for a moveset holistically their own and with some wildly unique mechanics, and Ken got none of that. I don't know, maybe I'm just playing him wrong? Can someone tell me if I'm crazy here? There might be some potential in the Sonic Blasts from Emmy, because I think they cause a confusion debuff to opponents. Am I smoking something here? I will give this DLC its flowers though. The beautiful art style and intense colorations of the movie are still on full display here. If there is one thing that Passion Republic knows, it's how to best represent the source IP through animations and stellar sound design. Take the Ultraman Wave 1 DLC as proof, cause half of that roster sounds like it is ripped straight from Showa in the best classical way possible. The Ultraman Rising pack is a perfectly fine pack for someone who is a mega fan of the movie though. I can't complain all too much. Also, watch Ultraman Rising right the fuck now. You like your K-pop demon hunters? You like your arcane? Well, before we had Genu, we had Ken fucking Sato. Watch this damn movie. I needed my sequel yesterday and pictures of Spider-Man today.
It's the holiday.
Hey, does anyone know what they're getting Splinter?
I made him this mug.
Oh my god,
Maybe don't give him that.
And here we are, the main event. In the pantheon of the greats of tokusatsu, we get into many different subgenres like your standard henshin heroes like Metal Heroes, Kamen Rider, and Sentai. But on the flip side, we have the kaiju genre. It's all Toku at the end of the day. And the big 3 of that half of the genre will always and forever be Godzilla, Ultraman, and our baby boy, Gamera. Gamera has had a weird place in history for the longest time. His heyday was the Showa and Heisei eras where he was pumping out movie after movie. Many will laud the Heisei trilogy as the gold standard of Gamera entertainment, and as far as the first movie goes, that's about the only Gamera thing I've ever consumed, and it's pretty good! Though maybe I'll broaden my horizons and think about talking about more Gamera stuff in the coming months for shadowing. But for now, we've got the Gamera Rebirth DLC. It's still insane to say that out loud, even to this day. In continuing with the 2-pack pattern, we have the poster boy Gamera, as well as one of his rivals from Gamera Rebirth, Giron. Let's talk about my Damascus steel vegetable knife first before we get to Gamera. Giron is quite the pick, though he's somewhat of a Reiwa pick and also a legacy Showa pick, as Giron was one of Gamera's very first opponents in his early movies. So to get an updated design for him in the anime was of course very welcome, and he makes for a very unique kaiju pick for Gigabash. Though my soul still yearns for Iris to join someday, that design is just sick as hell in every possible way. Like goddamn. Giron in Gigabash is almost like, well, a Fire Emblem character? Okay, wait a minute here. Giron, of course, has the unique anatomy of having a big ol' swing on his face, so of course he's gonna swing that thing around like he owns it. Jesus Christ, how long before this video gets demonetized again? Having this range means that Giron's playstyle is a keep-away sort of fencing style, while also having a goddamn command grab. I'm gonna go on record here in saying that command grabs in this particular game are just absurdly strong because of how the fighting mechanics and physics all work together, but it's not like Gigabash is gonna make it to EVO anytime soon, so who's gonna bother listening to me now? All in all, Giron is still a pretty fun inclusion. Another quadruped with a unique playstyle, yet again. And now for our big baby turtley boy, Gamera. I think the developers overheard me writing this script. Guys, seriously, I asked you last time, get the hell out of my walls! Because Gamera is the chunkiest boy this side of the Heart Attack Cafe. His base walking speed is so slow. It's almost uncomfortable to play at times, compared to the zippy zappy Zuda type fast movements of most of the other cast. But when you get used to it, it's not all that bad. Though despite his slow movement, he makes up for it in raw beat stick power, baby! His fireballs can be charged up to cause a burning effect on the ground that's really effective in free-for-alls. He hits very, very hard with most of his single hit or charged attacks. He's got another goddamn command grab. Passion Republic, we do gotta talk. I just wanna talk! And while he has one of the more interesting playstyles in the game, it's fairly linear and one-dimensional. Because not only is he a slow, meaty boy, but he's also an airborne, slow, meaty boy. Like a Boeing 737 and a half shell. Turtle power! Using his strong special attack in the air allows him to take flight, and come on guys, like, seriously? Come on. Okay, I know Gamera's had the short end of the stick for the better half of 30 years here, but do we really gotta make him S tier in his first video game appearance since the 90s? Yes. The answer is yes. The boy deserves it. Then don't you dare take that away from him. Moving on.
Helicopter, helicopter!
The Gamera DLC is further proof that Passion Republic know their stuff when it comes to presenting the monsters in this game, because these two look straight ripped out of the cel-shaded stylized anime, which is crazy given that the art style of this game really isn't cel-shaded to begin with. Though this is the part where I get to bitch about how all of the licensed characters, except Godzilla, have the unfortunate nerf of not having any alternate colors. Well, they do, but it's just a different shade of light on their bodies. Come on. It's disappointing that crossovers like this don't get the freedom to use alternate colors as a means of fun references or experimentations with a character's silhouette anymore. Like, come on, you're telling me we couldn't get a gold recolor for Ultraman, or we couldn't get a cheeky Bowser recolor for Gamera? At least all of the original characters get to have fun tongue-in-cheek references with different alternate costumes. But I guess the licensed characters will just have to settle for what shade of shoulder they would like today.
What do we do now? What do you mean? Now we can finally play the game.
Once upon a time, when I was looking for up-and-coming indie games about giant monsters, I saw two games, Dawn of the Monsters and this weird party brawler called Gigabash at so many cons and showcases. At the time, I didn't really put too much stock into Gigabash because, like most of you, I was just looking for Godzilla, not fucking Skorak. But all these years later, I couldn't have been any more wrong to doubt the little indie game that could. And could it fucking did. English. And now I can appreciate Gigabash even more than I ever have before. In a world full of brands and brands and brands and crossovers, it's easy to forget that there is a space for original ideas too. And Passion Republic needs some proper recognition here for these charming and inspired designs across the entire roster. These guys also need full credit for giving all of their crossover IPs the Sakurai treatment and giving each wave of DLC the love, care, and attention to detail that they all deserve. Obviously, the question now is, where do we go from here? While Gamera is a huge win and a big addition to the roster that felt almost as impossible as Sora in Smash Bros., there's still room for more to make this roster feel truly complete. I feel that King Kong is still sorely missing here, and no Gorogong, your persona doesn't count. But my current wish list comes down to 4 choices that I feel will round out the roster in a way that will add meaningful choices instead of just checking off certain boxes. In my number 4 spot is honestly any anime mecha. They could probably just take their pick from a hat at this point because there are oodles and oodles of choices that I'd love to see. Mazinger Z, Grendizer, anything from Getter Robo. Gundam's an obvious choice here, of course. Or probably the top spot on a lot of people's lists, Eva 1. It would only feel right for Ultraman, Godzilla, and Eva 1 to show up in another crossover together. I mean, they already combined into a horror beyond my greatest comprehension, so what's stopping Evangelion from stopping by in Gigabash? At number 3, we need Gypsy Danger. Or, honestly, any Jaeger or Kaiju from Pacific Rim. It is wild to think that an original IP made its way into the public consciousness and never got a sequel. Goddamn, rip Pacific Rim, rip. I think that there's a lot of pedigree and legacy in this roster, so to bring something from a far more recent zeitgeist would be really neat to see. At number 2, I actually think Ultraman deserves another shot. Not at adding any more Ultramen and women, cause Lord knows this game's got plenty, but I think Ultra Kaiju deserve a spot on this roster. Half of the charm of Ultraman is the monsters that he fights, and the series is full of so many great picks you could probably draw them also out of a hat. My personal picks would actually be the Meteor Kaiju from the latest season, Ultraman Omega. I just think these guys look real neat and would be a really clean 3-pack, or hell, maybe a 4-pack if they wanted to throw Big Red in there. That'd be really cool. And lastly, my number 1. I'm on my knees, Passion Republic. I cry out into the night and hope that you hear my prayers to bring Space Godzilla to Gigabash. I honestly don't know what this crystally boy did to alter my brain chemistry so hard in my youth, but Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla was my first Godzilla movie. Space Godzilla has stayed cemented as my favorite Godzilla villain for ages, and the Pipeworks trilogy only showed him even more love than I ever thought they could. But ever since the Pipeworks trilogy ended, he's been sorely absent in recent years. I think that Space Godzilla's kooky area of effect skills, what with raining crystals and shooting lasers from said crystals, could be a really neat addition to the roster. In light of recent events, I must advise, future All Night can confirm, my agenda is thriving. And that is about all that I've got left in me to talk any more about Gigabash. Of course, barring any potential future DLC plans or maybe a sequel. If Toho is so strapped for cash that they don't want to bother making a bona fide Godzilla game themselves, I think we've got a group of passionate developers that would be more than willing to tackle the Big G in a standalone game if the cards were laid down right. Come to think of it, oh, come on, not again! Gamera, for the love of fuck, if I gotta tell you to kick rocks one more time, I'm gonna... I have got to stop getting my ass kicked like this. It's not a good look. Oh no. Oh no. The Giga Energy. There's no way. He's eating it all. Son of a bitch. If that giant rocky fuck gets his way, and all that Giga Energy is sucked away, that means all the kaiju. No. No way! Gamera? But why are you so tiny? Shit. Even if I morphed back, I'm not big enough to deal with all of that. Plus, Tegasword and I are kind of going through a thing right now. We're not really on speaking terms. Seriously? A pen? We couldn't afford another changer? Ah, who am I kidding? I blew my money on Tegasword. And you're sure this'll work? Alright. Let's do this. Giga! Up!
Hey, Rocky Ball bitch face. This ain't an all-you-can-eat buffet. The Giga Energy is a la carte, and you're about to speak with the fucking manager. Oh, God damn it! Oh, son of a fuck! Goddamn square cube block and kiss my ass! So it's like that, huh? Oh, it's going down. Godzilla, 来たね。 終わったらみんなで出かけて静かな夜を過ごさない。私がご馳走するよ。Oh, all right.
At the end of the day, Gigabash is a peculiar exception in our modern entertainment ecosystem. What started as a simple indie game with callbacks and references to all of our favorite kaiju has now exploded and evolved into, well, yes, a tokusatsu Smash Bros. We could theorize and speculate all day about the oodles and oodles of characters that they could add to this game or game modes they could iterate on until the end of time. But I think we need to remember that Gigabash came out a whopping 3 years ago at this point. To still be churning out DLC is commendable. Some games can't even make it past 1. But let's not set ourselves up for failure here. And remember that at some point, Gigabash will come to an end. I don't want it to happen, but we gotta be ready for it. The journey so far has been historic, to say the least. Could they keep going and get some true nonsense up in there, like maybe a Kamen Rider somehow, or a Gundam, or King Kong? Or will Gamera be the swan song to what has been the best 3 years to ever grace the kaiju fandom? We may truly never know, but what I do know is that I have all of you to thank for supporting all of my Gigabash content ever since I did my first video, all the way up until now. This estranged mix of gaming and tokusatsu is coming together like peanut butter and chocolate, so I'm happy y'all are enjoying this type of content. Whatever the future holds for Passion Republic, I want them to know that I will be right here and seated for anything they're able to work on. Don't forget to swash that like button and show the algorithm some of that love. Subscribe for more content, and as always, I've been your host all night. And do not forget to stay loved, keep loving, and have a wonderful night.